You are listening to the Female Entrepreneurs Network podcast, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about boundaries. Setting boundaries is super important in all areas of your life, yet there is one common mistake most women make when putting those boundaries into place. So stay tuned if you want to learn how to fix it. Hi, I'm Ayla, and for over a decade, I've been dedicated to helping entrepreneurs thrive. Welcome to the Female Entrepreneurs Network podcast. Here, we focus on personal growth so your business can grow alongside you. Discover how to optimize your business, elevate your mindset, and truly feel and act like a CEO. This is more than just business. It's about transforming your entire entrepreneurial journey. Join me on this path to unlock your fullest potential. Welcome back. You made it right in time for another episode. I am so happy that you are here. Thank you so much for listening. Over here, we are in week 8 of the summer holiday, and we're just knackered. This evening, we were sitting outside. We were having dinner with the girls. They're 5 and 2, and they just went ballistic, honestly. I don't know. They started making animal noise or something during dinner. And my husband started to say something about it. And then halfway through, he just sort of cut himself off. And he just said, I can't do it anymore. It's just 8 weeks. So. But yeah, we're nearly there. And it's so double. It's our youngest right now. She's in one of those phases where she's just nuts. She's scratching her face and she won't let you change her, and it's just horrible. It's terrible twos, very much, yes. And I was just wondering, how can you love a being that much and still also be that tired of them at the same time? I don't know why nature did this. There's probably an explanation for it. I don't know it, and it's driving me nuts. That being said, they are lovely, and I'm very glad. Next week, the whole routine is going to go back to school and daycare and us working and silence in the house from time to time. It would be so nice. Sorry, I didn't mean to complain, but it's what 8 weeks of summer holiday will do to you. So that's what I've been up to. I am very curious to know what you've been up to as well. Please send me a message. I love getting messages like that. And then, yeah, I'm just going to say it. I have a new way to work with me this fall. I've decided to open up some 2-month coaching projects. No, not projects. I keep saying the word wrong. I don't know why. Programs. Trajects. No. There's a Dutch-English mix-up going on in my head about this. I'm going to say it differently. I have space for 2 people to be coached for 2 months because I decided it's normally I do either 3 months or 6 months of coaching, and I decided to do 2 months because the end of year is in sight, and we all know that with holidays and everything, most women are not going to be focused on taking very big steps in their business in December because of all the holidays. And then, there's October and November that have some as well. But it's still nice to get all your ducks in a row when a new year starts, because that's when everybody's feeling, yay, new year, let's do it. So I figured, I'm going to go for 2 spots for 2-month coaching, and then we can do a super speedy coaching program for you to make sure that you are ready when the end of year hits, and mostly when the new year starts. And it's going to be so much fun. So if you are interested in that, send me a message and I'll get in touch with you. All right. Today's episode is all about setting boundaries. And when coaching mompreneurs like I do, this is a very hot topic, maybe one of the hottest of them all. Our time is super precious and it needs to be guarded, and so we need to set boundaries in place. The only problem is that most women forget to share those boundaries with other important parties, like your team, your spouse, your kids. The people that then go on to cross those boundaries, they know nothing of. So not only are you then feeling unseen, maybe even disrespected, straight up frustrated, you also can't keep up those boundaries you needed to work on your business in the first place. So the consequences are everywhere. You'll be distracted from your work, making you less productive. You'll get into an argument with your kids again about leaving mommy alone when she's working. Trust me, I've been there. And you are left feeling like an asshole because you didn't meet goals all around, both in your business and on the side of family life. So clearly communicating your boundaries may make you feel like an asshole as well, a bit dictatory, if you will. But think big here. Think of a mompreneur you admire, someone who's in charge of a big and successful business. I'll take Natalie Ellis as an example here. She's Boss Babe. You probably know her. I think you know her, doesn't everyone? I absolutely adore her podcast, and I've been listening a lot to it lately. And I was writing the sort of outline for this podcast, and she came to mind because I've been listening to some of her podcasts on routine, and it's very inspiring. And I was just thinking, like, do you think she could have grown her company to the success that it is today without setting boundaries into place? Not only to guard her own time, but to guard her role within the company as well. It would be absolutely impossible without boundaries. She would still be taking customer service calls, and she would be creating visuals, editing her own podcasts. I don't know what she does. Maybe she does these things. I don't know. Do what you like in your business. But if she does it, it's because it's a conscious choice. So that's what I'm saying here. You need boundaries if you want to grow your company and be good in your company. And then when setting boundaries, as I said, it's just as important to communicate them. I think that a lot of women feel that when they're setting boundaries, they are being very strict about it internally. Like, okay, I'm going to be setting boundaries and I'm going to do it this way and that way. But then they forget to communicate that to the outside world. And then the frustration gets even bigger when those boundaries are being crossed because you made such a humpapa. I don't know how I say that in English. You just made a big old deal about it that you set those boundaries in the first place. So when they're being crossed, you're going to be feeling really bad. And the way to communicate those boundaries, the ways to do it are infinite. You can block calendar moments, you can hang up a do not disturb plaque on your door, you can turn off your phone. But it's nicer to let people actually know what you're up to. It feels like less dictatory. And what will happen when you communicate it in a sort of normal way, friendly way, a personal way, is that people around you will know and they will understand why you're shutting them out as well. So it's less likely to create arguments, to create unhappy feelings, especially with kids. This is important. Mine, they don't know how to read a clock yet, read time. And so I can shut my door and say, Mommy will be back in an hour. But to them, a minute feels like an hour. They have absolutely no clue what an hour is. So communicating my boundaries to them is going to be very different than what I'm communicating to my husband about this. And that feels super double because, I just want to say to my kids, Mommy's going to be back in an hour. But them not understanding it, well, yeah, it makes it very hard, yeah, obviously. But it creates frustration on both sides because they're going to be barging in after 15 minutes and I'm going to be like, I said I was going to be an hour. So be creative in how you communicate the boundaries. The problem with doing it this way, with not clearly communicating your boundaries, is that you are not looking after your own energy, because having to repeat boundaries over and over and over and over again can be draining. And being a mom already has you repeating so many boundaries in a day that setting a boundary for your business is just going to add to that pile and is going to drain your energy even more. That's mostly when it comes to kids. I don't know how often you're repeating your boundaries to your significant other or your teammates, but for me it's most often the kids. But on the team side and my husband's side, setting boundaries makes me feel seen, because many mompreneurs feel lonely, they feel unseen, they feel like they're it's this is the gender gap again. Men have a business and women have a cute side project. That's very often what happens. Not saying this is happening to you, but it could be. And setting boundaries, blocking your time off, is gonna create more understanding for your business as well. My husband knows right now, he knows I'm up in our bedroom recording a podcast, so he won't come in here. And he can also see that I'm using my time in the evening to proactively work on some goals I want to achieve for my business, which then in return makes me feel seen, because he is bound to ask, what's going on with the podcast? Do you have listeners? Stuff like that. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is setting boundaries is not just about being an asshole and saying, no, do not disturb me, but it's also about actually you're being unseen to be seen, which is very nice. In the last episode, I already talked a bit about boundaries. I don't know if this is going to be the last episode. If you're listening to it, I don't know yet in what order I'm going to publish them. But in one of the previous episodes, I was talking about boundaries when I shared a story of how I taped a do not disturb paper onto myself when I was working in the bullpen of a sales organization. And while it helped me get the job done at the moment, it wasn't a classy move necessarily. And I have another story for you, which is an even worse example. When I was working as a VA, I had a client, and this was a shit show from day one. Pardon my French, but it was true. And I should have seen it coming. The lady in question, she was a very demanding person, and rightly so, I might add. She had a successful business. She could ask for accountability in her team. She needed a team to do the job right. And well, rightly so, her business was awesome and she had the credentials and it could have been awesome. And the only thing is that she came from... I'm trying to figure out how to tell you as many details as possible without telling you who she is. The thing is that she came from a area of business that was very masculine. It was very top dog, very competitive. It made her very masculine as well. She had to fight really hard for the position that she finally gained. And then her business was to teach other women in corporate jobs how to do that without losing yourself. She's really advocating women's rights in businesses, which is really cool to do. The only thing is that the way she became in that business is that she saw herself as the big boss and she saw her team as her minions. And that was the big mistake she made. I would have loved working for her if she would have treated me with the respect that I also deserved, because I did a good job. I was a good VA and I definitely over-delivered. I did a very good job. And still, she treated me as an absolute lower person, giving me orders, calling me day and night. Even though I set my boundaries, she would cross them continuously because she saw herself as my boss. And she was just going, yeah, but you work for me, so you have to do what I say. And that was very uncool. And then sort of the volcano burst when I was 25 weeks pregnant with my first kid. I had a complication, life-threatening complication, for which I had to undergo emergency surgery. Not fun, being pregnant and then having to undergo surgery and then having all these wounds on your body that needed to heal, but you're very uncomfortable because you're pregnant and your belly's already big. And it was a very scary few weeks that I went through. And I remember that I went to the hospital on a Sunday evening and they told me to come back in the morning because they just couldn't do it at the moment, but I had to come back in the morning. And somewhere in that space of time, I don't even remember it that consciously, but somewhere in that space of time, I managed to send her a message or an email, or I don't know, saying, this is happening. I am gonna be having surgery in like an hour, so I won't be there until Wednesday. This was Monday, and I said I won't be there till Wednesday. This is already a big mistake on my part. I mean, who does that? I was I was very loyal and very dedicated to doing a good job, and I just didn't want to disappoint, because by then I already knew what she was like, and I just knew if I say I'm going to be out for a week, she was going to freak out. I knew she would. So I gave myself 2 days to recover from a surgery while pregnant. So, okay, my bad. But then her bad was when she called me on Tuesday saying, oh yeah, I know you were supposed to be off until Wednesday, but I really need you right now. I really need you to fix this right now. And I did it. I did it because my whole brain was just going, oh, you know what? I'm lying on the couch anyway. I might as well just prop up my laptop on my lap and actually do the work for her. Which is looking back at it, like, what the heck was I thinking? I don't know. I was just no boundaries in place whatsoever. And then, of course, I got more frustrated with her for not respecting my boundaries. And as with kids as well, she kept on disrespecting my boundaries after that time and time and time and time and time again, because I didn't keep to them. You know, it's like when you say no to a kid, you have to keep saying no, because otherwise they're going to learn that 10 times no means yes in the end. And that's what happened with her as well. So what's important to take away from this, for me, it was being more gracious to myself. Like, if I set a boundary, I'm going to keep to it. And my health is 1,000 times more important than the work I was doing for a client. And also it sort of built a trust relation. From that point forward, I just didn't trust her anymore, and she probably didn't trust me either, because I said, you know, life threatening, but I came into work anyway the next day. So that's not good for both parties. And I think many female entrepreneurs, especially moms, can feel very guilty or selfish when they're enforcing boundaries, particularly when it comes to balancing business and family life. This is maybe not family life, but more health related. But family life is even worse, in my opinion, because this was life threatening. You sort of have a good reason to say no. Like, hi, I'm almost dying. Can I please not work for you for 2 days? That sort of makes sense. But if you're saying, I really want to have some quality time with my kids, and you're facing a person like her who's very masculine and demanding and just saying, no, my work's more important than your family, then it's very, very difficult to enforce the boundaries you set. And this guilt that you feel to either your client or your family or both at the same time, it can lead to weakening these boundaries or not setting them at all, which is a big old shame. So the lesson I learned here is I communicated my boundaries to her, but I was afraid to repeat that and hold on to it. Well, such a shame, because one simple sentence would have done it, basically. And you don't have to be a bad person about it. I was going to say bitch, but I know Americans don't like saying the word bitch, but it's basically what I wanted to say. You don't have to be a bitch about it. There are nice ways to communicate your boundaries, which is set an auto-reply to your emails or a text in your signature. This is what I used to do when I was working full-time as a VA. I had some days I was working and some days I wasn't, and my email signature was just, I am here on these days, and the other days I am enjoying quality time with my family, which I value or something. It was something that felt very sappy, but it was personal as well, and people understand it. When they see it in your email signature, they know what they can expect from you, and if you keep to it, no harm done. Same goes for an auto reply on your emails. If you always have the I don't know, like the Friday off, you set an auto reply going in on Thursday evening saying, I enjoy a 3-day weekend to spend some extra quality time with my kids. Something like that. Make it personal. So if you're just gonna say, you have these email signatures where you have a name and then you just say Monday to Thursday. And that's just sort of giving, I don't want to work. Or maybe it's not giving, I don't want to work, but it's just so strict. But if you make it a tad more personal, then people will sort of feel compassion for you or see into your situation. I think that my English is lacking here and also my wit at the end of the holiday, but I hope that you're getting what I'm trying to get across. Make it personal. If somebody is trying to call you while you are on one of those days that you're not working, you can reply with a text message. Feel free to do that. If you're nervous to answer a call, like I was with her, I was absolutely, for every time she called me, I would just break out in sweats because I knew she was going to be unhappy about something. She was going to ask me to do something that I didn't have time for, didn't want to do, wasn't in my job, something like that. So there are people that you might work with. My first tip would be stop working with them. It will make you feel a lot better, I promise you. But if you're not there yet, don't answer their call. If you're like on your boundary time off, just don't do it. And if you feel bad about ignoring their call, you can always shoot them a message afterwards, simply stating, hey, I saw you called. I like to remind you that this is my time off. I'm going to be back in the office on Monday, and I will get back to you on Monday. No excuses. In this case, you're not going to make it personal because that will make you sort of feel like you're given an excuse, which you're not. You already communicate clearly in advance, this is my boundary, and they are crossing it at that moment. So just be kind but firm. And also, what helps with boundaries is repeating them beforehand. Better beforehand than afterwards when you are being disturbed in your boundaries. So with difficult clients, it's going to be like that. Thursday morning, you give them a ring or something and remind them, I'm going to be out for the weekend after tonight. If there's something that you wanted to share, it has to be done today because tomorrow I'm not there. Same goes for like on a smaller scale with your husband or your kids. Tell them that you're going to go into a deep working block for 2 hours. Tell them that you're going to be locking your door and that they just should pretend that you aren't there. This is very, I realize that this is very specific for working from home scenarios, but this can be done with colleagues as well, of course. Just let them pretend that you're not there because then they won't get into, they won't get the idea into their heads that they can still disturb you. Just, I'm not here. And after 2 hours, I will be back. And then if the 2 hours are over, it's really like training dogs, isn't it? Like when the 2 hours are over, make sure you let them know that it's over and that they can disturb you again. Because that's also, even if it's afterwards, and you could just stop working on your deep working and start doing something else. But then for them, it looks like you said you're going to be 2 hours and it took you 4 in the end. So the next time they're not going to take it as seriously. If you are working in a business where you communicate with clients a lot, setting office hours will set boundaries and expectations. This is, as I said before, with an text in your signature, but I have a client as well. We go back and forth and she's very strict about her own boundaries. I'm working for her on a coach as a coach. So the boundaries I see in her text messages aren't meant for me, but for the people that she's coaching. But very often it's something in Apple. You can let it display that notifications are being silenced and that they won't get back until they unsilence their phone. So if you've already communicated beforehand that you're going to do that, that would be an awesome way to remind them without actually having to send them a message going, hey, I silenced my phone. And then, as I said, be clear and concise. I see that you've called me. This is double information. Okay, cut. Alrighty, I hope this helps. I have a feeling that I said a lot of stuff double in there. It might just be because my brain is fresh. As I mentioned before, I have 2 spaces open for mompreneurs who want to be coached this fall. It will be the Speedy 2-month boost in your business. I didn't give it a name. It's just a 2-month boost in your business. We'll start in September and we're going to plan sessions to mid-November. And then we can account for a hiatus here and there with a holiday. I know that in America and Canada, you have the Thanksgiving. So if it falls in there, it's going to be easy to get to mid-November. And then you'll have all your stuff in place for the new year with enough time for the holidays. So if it's something you're interested in, send me an email at ayla@female-entrepreneurs.com. I'd love to help you take your momentum back after the summer and make some steps in your business before the New Year's comes around. I hope to hear from you. And yeah, follow me around on Instagram if you like. I'm getting into the habit of posting more often over there. And it's fun. It's all fun. All right. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Female Entrepreneurs Network podcast. I hope you loved what you heard today. And if you did, it would mean a world to me if you could leave a review. Because believe it or not, reviews on podcasts are actually still used to make sure more people get to see this podcast in their screens and maybe click on it and learn something as well. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.